It is March 4th, 2023, and we're here at a creek very near the Frio River in central Texas. And I just wanted to show you this sectioning of the ancients. This block, this section of ancient concrete that was one of the sections used to build the many continents. This section is not perfectly shaped. We do have a vertical side through what is said to be sedimentary material. And you say, well, it's not smooth. I mean, if it's a Roman or a Greek job, that would be perfectly smooth. Then we have this vertical side, again, not smooth, but it is vertical through this, quote, sedimentary material, okay? Now, also note that if this were sedimentary material, we'd have a nice flat surface because sedimentary material gives us horizontal layering that's flat. Well, this is corrugated. It's corrugated. This is the way they built it right here. And they built it this way to hold the other material that's on top of it, right? Now we have another vertical sided section, right? Vertical sided. And you say, but it's not a perfect right angle. It's not quite 90 degrees. True. And this one's not even close. There's got to be a natural crack. These totally integral sections, no cracks, no fractures, no cracks, no fractures, right? Here's the side. Let's look at this one now. No cracks, no fractures, no cracks, no fractures, no cracks, no fractures, no cracks, no fractures. The only place these are cracking are at the vertical sided ends of them, right? And they're not cracking, there's no horizontal cracks at all. No horizontal cracks or fractures whatsoever. They're only vertical. And you say, but they're not perfect vertical lines. My goodness, they're not perfectly vertical. It is true, they're not perfectly vertical. But you have to notice that there's no cracking. There's not breaking apart. These sections are perfectly strong. Perfectly strong, and then suddenly a full break. Suddenly a full break. And oh look, we found a fracture. We found a crack finally in this material. My goodness. So this massive slab, which weighs undoubtedly several tons, ends vertically. Oh, here you see the interior, the homogeneous material, which could be natural, right? If we just looked at the homogeneous nature of the material, we could say, oh, it might be natural, or it could be concrete that was meant to be homogeneous, right? This is the beginning of the area where we can see the diagonal sectioning of the ancients. So let's climb up top. We're seeing the pointing inward of these sections. We didn't notice it from inside the creek. Now we do notice it. So this section is pointing into the creek, right? See how it's pointing? That section's pointing into the creek, okay? And the section next to it is pointing into the creek. Now, why did the true ancients who built the continents create pointers across their creek? Why would they go to the trouble to do that? Well, because this creek, like all creeks, like all rivers, all creek beds and riverbeds are foundations for hills on either side of them. So on the left there's a hill, and on the right there's a hill. What we call a creek bed is actually a foundation for hills, and they wanted to make sure that their hills lasted through time. So they used diagonal sectioning. So that's a diagonally sectioned block of concrete. See, they're all the same diagonal. All the same diagonal, right? All the same. We're just going to look at all the sections that are identical in their geometry, all right? Here they are. There's the pointer across the creek, all right? There it is. Here's the pointer across the creek. Okay, there's the pointer. There's the pointer across the creek. And then we have the points inward too. We have the points across the flow of the creek and the points inward also. There's the point, 45, 45. Once you ask the question, could this be artificial? Then you go, oh yeah, it's obvious. You see, no one's asking the question.
This rock out here is a particular type of limestone that was deposited in the early Cretaceous, so we're talking in the neighborhood of about 100 million years ago. So at that time, most of Texas was what they call a shallow inland sea. It doesn't really have a contemporary equivalent in this day and age, but if you picture the United States of America, the continent of North America split into two halves, with the Rocky Mountains on this side and the Appalachians on this side. And all of that lower area, sea levels were so high that the water covered that land to a depth of a couple hundred meters, I believe. So in that warm water environment, warm, quiet, not turbulent, slow moving, you have a lot of calcium carbonate that filters out of the water, settles at the bottom, and gradually those layers get compressed into what we call limestone. So you're looking at it here, you can see the truck behind me. Ancient river deposits made out of limestone that was eroded from layers that would have been above us at the time. Sea levels receded, the ground was exposed to the air, erosion takes place, so this is getting washed down into the Gulf of Mexico and exposing the limestone shelves that you may see later on in the video down along the riverbeds. So that's about the long and short of it.
And how long do you think it took for all this limestone to get deposited?
Hard to say. So you're talking about a period between 100 million years ago and 63 million years ago. So a span of roughly 40 million years to build up these layers of lime silt and clay to a point where once that water began to recede, let me back up, to deposit those layers thick enough so that the bottom layer of it had enough weight on top of it to squeeze it down and through heat and pressure lithify it into a rock.
Do you think that the organisms that were in the sea would have been fossilized in some of this material?
Indeed they are, and we have evidence all over the area, this entire area, the hill country of Texas, where you have limestone and where you have shallow sea limestone. You will find many fossils, ancient oysters, clams, brachiopods, which were a clam-like creature. My favorite are called the crinoids. They're like they were an animal, but they were flower-shaped. They had tentacles on a long stalk. They have a relative that's alive these days they call a sea lily. If you're interested in looking it up, it's an easy Google away. The stalk would have been kind of spiral-shaped or kind of segmented, and then the top would almost look like a tentacle, like a starfish upside down with fronds, somewhere between a starfish and a flower. And that would be the device it would use to catch its food and draw it down into the center mouth.
Nice. So. Now I'm going to ask you a question that might be off the radar for a geologist.
Okay, I'll do my best.
And you just give me your honest answer. Ready?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. If the planet was built and not a naturally occurring object,
sure.
Let's say that an advanced race builds planets for fun, and that was 4 billion or so years ago. Could this material that has fossils in it from 100 million years ago, 63 to 100 million years ago?
Correct.
Could that material be eroded concrete, in other words, eroded material from the original building by an advanced race?
That would be something that would be beyond my scope to speculate on. I would have to see a lot more evidence of intent or intentional construction, but again, I'm no expert.
Well, you're a geologist, so you are the only expert we got.
Yeah. I've got a pretty decent geology background. You know, my days now are dedicated to protecting these natural resources for the folks of Texas so that they can enjoy them.
Right.
So whether by design or whether natural processes, I'm just glad they're here for us to enjoy.
Right. I was just thinking maybe, as my last question, maybe it could have been a combination of both artifice and natural processes, so that in the beginning there was this created ball, and then over time, in the lower areas that you're talking about, between the east and the west part of what we now call the North American continent, in that dip where we had the Great Plains, maybe that's eroded concrete. Sure. You know, I mean, I'm just thinking maybe that's a possibility that we could entertain scientifically.
I think any possibility or any idea is worth entertaining, and then worth forming a hypothesis and testing it out and seeing if it holds up.
And going for the evidence.
Going for the evidence.
Looking for the evidence.
Indeed.
Tell us your name.
My name's Aaron Johnston. and I'm the Assistant Superintendent at Garner State Park.
Thanks, Aaron. I really appreciate it.
Happy to help.
All right.